Hello and welcome to Calm Coding. I am so glad you are tuning in with us today.
Really glad to be here.
We have a massive stack of reports to get through. We're looking at everything from microscopic code in your web browser to these huge macroeconomic clashes over AI.
It really is a wild mix this week. We have a menu that covers the full spectrum of security.
Yeah, it's a week of urgent updates, some baffled head shaking at security failures, and actually quite rare for us, a little bit of architectural praise.
Which is always nice. We're going to be talking about a critical zero day in the world's most popular browser, and that is a, drop everything and patch situation.
Sure.
Then we're looking at a significant clash between the European Parliament and AI tools, which honestly puts the government on a collision course with the new hardware rolling out from Silicon Valley this month.
And we absolutely cannot forget the story that had me just staring at my screen in total disbelief. The pharmacy flaw.
Oh, right, the super admin fiasco. That is a textbook example of how not to build a web application.
True.
And finally, we will touch on a ransomware attack on a major Japanese hotel chain that surprisingly has a very positive lesson for us regarding network architecture.
I think that's the core mission for this analysis. We want to cut through the noise for you. There are a lot of scary headlines out there, but we want to unpack exactly why these things are breaking and what it tells us about the state of security right now.
Without the panic,
Yeah,
just the facts you need to secure your systems.
Exactly. So let's start with the immediate threat. The Chrome crisis.
Crisis is definitely the right word when you're dealing with a zero-day. Google has just patched the first Chrome zero-day vulnerability of 2026.
Right. And let's just level set real quick.
Yeah.
A zero day means the bad guys found it and were actively using it before the developers even knew it existed.
Precisely. The zero refers to the number of days the defenders had to prepare. None.
None at all.
The vulnerability itself is identified as CVE 2026-2441. It carries a severity score of 8.3 out of 10.
Now, 8.3 might not sound like a 10 out of 10 apocalypse to some people.
Right, but that's only because it requires a user to actually visit a web page to trigger it. It's not a wormable exploit that spreads silently across networks, but because it is being actively abused in the wild, the practical severity for you is maximum.
Yeah, that phrase always gets me. In the wild. It means this isn't just a researcher in a lab writing a white paper. Someone is out there right now using this to break into machines.
Exactly. It's not
So
theoretical.
let's pop the hood a bit. The report says this is a use after free bug in the CSS component. Now, I know CSS is what makes websites look pretty, colors and fonts and layouts.
Yeah.
Why is the style sheet engine such a dangerous place to have a bug?
It's a really great question. We tend to think of CSS as just digital paint, but modern browsers are incredibly complex under the hood. The rendering engine, Blink, in Chrome's case, has to perform millions of calculations to figure out exactly where to put every single pixel.
Right, how to reflow text when you resize a window, handling complex animations.
Exactly. And a use after free bug is a memory corruption issue.
How does that work exactly? I mean, I've heard the term, obviously, but let's break it down for the listener.
Think of it like a hotel. You check out of your room, you hand back the key, and the hotel system marks that room as free or empty.
Okay, makes sense.
But imagine you secretly kept a copy of the key, and because of a glitch in the hotel's management system, they don't change the locks. They just assign that same room to a new VIP guest.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because you still have the key, which is the pointer in computer memory terms, you can let yourself in and mess with the new guest's luggage.
That is a terrifyingly clear analogy. So in the browser, the program clears a piece of memory, but the attacker still has a way to point to it.
Correct. And when the browser tries to use that memory space again for a legitimate task, like rendering a specific font or a layout grid, the attacker uses that dangling pointer to inject their own malicious code instead.
And once they are executing code, they are effectively inside the room. They've broken out of the browser sandbox.
Exactly. They can potentially steal cookies, session tokens, or install malware directly onto your OS. What makes this specific case really interesting, though, is Google's silence.
Yeah, I noticed that. They're withholding almost all the details about who the victims are and who the attackers are.
They are. And usually silence implies sophistication. If it were just a criminal gang blasting out ransomware, we'd probably hear about it on social media immediately.
Right. It usually points to espionage.
It does. Last year, Google patched 8 similar zero days. and the vast majority were traced back to state-sponsored actors or commercial surveillance vendors.
Those are the companies that build spyware for governments, right?
Yeah. Google keeps the details classified to prevent other hackers from reverse engineering the patch and building their own exploit before you have a chance to update.
So the silence buys us time, which brings us to the most important part of this whole segment, the fix. If you are listening to this right now, you need to check your version number.
Yes. Do not wait for the automatic notification to pop up in the corner. If you're on Windows or Mac, you need to be on Chrome version 145.0.7632.75 or .76.
Okay, and for Linux?
For Linux, it's version 144.7559.75.
So go to the menu, hit About Google Chrome, and watch it spin. And remember, even if it says it downloaded the update, you have to actually restart the browser to apply it.
That is the critical step. The memory issue isn't fixed until the application fully reloads. It is the single highest leverage thing you can do for your security today.
All right, consider that a public service announcement. Go patch.
Go patch.
Let's shift gears from microscopic code wars to a massive policy shift. We're talking about the AI security dilemma, specifically this new stance from the European Parliament.
This is such a fascinating development because it really highlights the friction between productivity and privacy. The European Parliament has effectively banned the use of generative AI features on government work devices.
That feels huge. I mean, we are in 2026 where every piece of software is trying to force-feed us AI, and the EU is just saying, no thanks. What sparked this?
It comes down to an internal memo from their IT department. The core issue isn't that they hate AI or they think it's going to turn into Skynet. The issue is cloud processing.
Ah, right.
The EU IT department realized they simply couldn't guarantee the security of the data. Because these AI tools, the chatbots, the summarizers, the rewriting tools, they were sending data off the device to service providers.
So it's a data sovereignty issue at its core. If I ask a chatbot to, say, summarize a highly confidential trade agreement, I am essentially uploading that secret document to a server that the EU does not control.
Precisely. And often those servers are in the U.S. They are subject to U.S. laws and not EU privacy laws.
Right.
So they didn't ban everything. Standard tools like local email clients and calendars, those remain. But the generative features that rely on that cloud loop, those are out.
This is where the timing gets really ironic for me. We are seeing this ban land effectively the exact same week that the hardware industry is rolling out the new AI PC generation.
Right.
I'm seeing ads everywhere for the Dell XPS 14.
With the new Intel Panther Lake chip.
Exactly. The Copilot plus PCs. The whole marketing pitch for Panther Lake and these new Dell machines is the NPU, the neural processing unit. They are telling us, hey, the AI lives on your laptop now. It's local. It's fast.
And technically, the hardware is capable of that. The Panther Lake NPU is an absolute beast. It is designed to run small language models entirely on the silicon.
Right?
But, and this is the big, but that the EU is worried about the software ecosystem hasn't fully decoupled from the cloud.
So even if I buy the fancy laptop with the NPU, my data might still be leaving the building.
In a lot of cases, yes. The flagship features, like Microsoft Copilot or that advanced recall semantic search, they often still default to a cloud connection for heavy lifting, or even just for telemetry.
Choose hybrid approach.
Yeah. The NPU handles some tasks, but the brain is often still split between your lap and a remote data center.
So the EU is looking at this and saying, we don't care how fast your NPU is. Until you can prove the data never leaves the chassis, we aren't playing. It's a trust gap. You have hardware manufacturers building the engine for local privacy, but the software vendors are still very much attached to the cloud tether. Until we have a mathematically verifiable air-gapped AI experience, I think we're going to see governments and high-security organizations opting out.
That puts the average user in a really tricky spot, though. I might buy that Dell XPS 14 thinking I have a totally private assistant, but I should probably treat it with the same skepticism as a public web search.
That is the big takeaway here. Treat your AI interface, even on a brand new AI PC, like a public forum. If you wouldn't shout it in a crowded room, do not type it into the chatbot.
I love that. If you wouldn't shout it, don't prompt it.
Exactly. Don't paste passwords, medical data, or proprietary code. Because once it leaves your device, you lose control of it.
Okay, speaking of losing control, let's talk about DavaIndia Pharmacy. This story falls squarely into the how on earth did this happen category.
Oh, this is a staggering failure of basic security architecture. Just staggering. DavaIndia is an arm of Zoda Healthcare, and they run over 2,300 stores. So this isn't some small mom-and-pop operation. This is a major national chain.
It is. And the report says they introduced a vulnerability late in 2024 that allowed unauthenticated users to create super admin accounts.
It's jaw-dropping. Usually when we talk about privilege escalation on this show, we mean a hacker steals a low-level employee's password and then finds a clever way to trick the system into promoting them.
Right, bypassing checks. But in this case, there was no trickery needed at all.
How does that even work structurally? Did they just leave a Make Me Boss button on the public homepage?
Architecturally, it was likely an exposed API endpoint. Modern websites talk to a database using these API calls.
Sure.
There should be middleware. Basically, a guard at the door that checks every single request and says, hey, does this person actually have permission to create an admin account?
And here the guard was just gone.
The guard was on vacation. The sign-up flow was completely exposed. If you knew the right web address or sent the right JSON command, the system just accepted it.
It didn't check if you were an employee or a total stranger.
Nope. It just said, okay, you're a super admin now. Welcome.
And super admin implies total control. What could someone actually do with that access?
The impact is catastrophic. Obviously, there is the data theft angle, exfiltrating patient names, phone numbers, massive lists of sensitive medications. But the real danger here was data integrity. A super admin can change the database.
Like changing prices or creating fake discounts?
Changing prices, sure. But think about the medical side. An attacker could potentially change the classification of a drug in the system.
Oh, wow.
Imagine if they changed a controlled substance to be listed as over-the-counter.
That is terrifying. You could have people ordering opioids without a prescription because the app suddenly says it's fine. That's a massive public health risk.
Exactly. It moves from a cybersecurity issue to a physical safety issue very, very quickly.
So who found this?
A security researcher named Eaton Zveer found it. And he reported it to CERT, that's India's cyber response agency, back in August 2025.
It took them a while to fix it. The report says late 2025. But there is a bit of a silver lining here, right?
There is. Zveer analyzed the logs and the database structure, and he believes there is zero evidence that malicious actors found this before he did.
That's the security by obscurity paradox again. The hole was so big and so obvious that maybe the sophisticated hackers just missed it because they were looking for something much harder.
Possibly, or it was just dumb luck. But you cannot rely on luck in this industry. The lesson here is about access control. If your public-facing sign-up tool can grant administrative privileges, you have failed the most fundamental test of web development. It is negligent.
It really is. It's just bad hygiene. Okay, let's move to our final story for today. We're going to Japan for this one. The Washington hotel chain, operated by Fujita Kanko.
This is a ransomware story, but it has a very different ending than the pharmacy story.
It does. This is a great example of security by design actually working in the real world. The attack was spotted pretty recently on February 13th, 2026.
Right. Attackers gained unauthorized access to the business data servers.
And usually this is the part of the show where we list the millions of people who lost their credit card numbers and passport scans. Hotels are gold mines for that kind of data.
They absolutely are.
Yeah.
But in this case, the Washington hotel chain had implemented rigorous network segmentation. They had a membership program called Washington Net where all that sensitive customer data lived. But that database was stored on an entirely external, separate server infrastructure.
So it wasn't physically or logically connected to the business network that got hacked.
Exactly. It was segmented. Think of it like a submarine with watertight doors.
Okay.
The attackers flooded the business compartment, the computers used for checking people in, running the back office, the point-of-sale terminals, but they couldn't open the door to the customer data compartment.
That is a stark contrast to the pharmacy story. The pharmacy had no doors at all. You get in, you own everything. The hotel had actually built walls to contain the explosion.
We call that limiting the blast radius. You have to assume you will get breached eventually. The goal is to make sure that when a breach happens, it doesn't take down the whole ship.
So practically speaking, what happened at the hotel during the attack?
They had some operational pain for sure. Point-of-sale terminals acted up. Maybe checking in was a bit slower because the staff had to do things manually for a bit. But as of now, no customer data has leaked on the dark web.
That's incredible.
They saved their reputation and their customers' privacy simply because of that architecture.
It's a great reminder for anyone listening who builds these systems. Defense isn't just about stopping the hacker from getting in. It's about making sure they can't go anywhere once they are inside.
Absolutely. Assume breach and build from there.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground today, from browser memory to hotel servers. Let's bring this home. What are the key takeaways for you to act on this week?
Well, sound like a broken record, but number one is the Chrome update. That CSS vulnerability is active, it is dangerous, and the fix is incredibly easy. Check your version, 145 on Windows and Mac, 144 on Linux, restart the browser. Do it right
You
now.
do not wait.
And on the AI front,
Be skeptical. The EU ban is a really strong signal. Even if you are eyeing that new Dell laptop with the Panther Lake chip, understand that local hardware does not automatically mean local data. Until a software ecosystem matures, keep your secrets out of the chat prompts.
and finally, looking at the contrast between the pharmacy and the hotel.
It's a lesson in trust. When you give your data to a company, you are trusting their architecture. The pharmacy failed that trust completely. The hotel upheld it. It's worth thinking about who actually holds your digital life.
That leads me to a final thought I've been mulling over as we've been talking. We discussed the EU banning AI because of the cloud tether, and companies like Intel pushing these local NPUs to solve that.
Right. As these computers get faster, as the brain truly moves from the server farm to our laptop chassis, do you think we will ever reach a point where governments finally feel safe using them?
That is the billion-dollar question. Can we ever truly sever the tether? The temptation for software giants to phone home with telemetry and training data is just massive. I honestly think the defining battle of the next few years isn't going to be AI versus human. It's going to be the user versus the telemetry.
Can we actually own our own compute? That is a huge question to leave you with. Thank you so much for tuning into Calm Coding. We are here to keep you safe, informed, and hopefully a little less stressed about the digital world.
Stay safe, everyone.
And keep those browsers updated. We'll see you next time.